All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Alchemy Podcast. I'm here with someone from the Mount Rushmore of D2D.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that term.
Legend and a dear friend, Sam Taggart. Sam, welcome to the Alchemy Pod.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited. This is like a long time coming.
Long time coming.
Yeah.
We haven't dropped in a couple of years, so it's
Doug,
here.
the Vivint King, was
DVC.
DVC Facebook name.
So it's really cool walking in here. You know, I was driving up here. I did some podcasts in Provo, asked me to swing by the spot here in Sandy, and I'm like pulling up and I'm like, look at this mecca that you've created. I mean, when did you see this kind of like your door-to-door empire? You know, you have like your own, headquarters now. You have like a meditation room in here. You've got like a conference room here. You got the sick podcast room. You got a floor of sales reps. You got your office. I mean, when did you see this before it actually came to fruition?
I never even saw it as like creating a business, right? And then when I did this, I was like, I really want to not just create I was like, oh, I'll do this for fun. And like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'll throw an event. And then you're like, oh, throwing an event. You need an events person. And then you need marketing people. And then you need, and then it's like, oh, you need people to sell it because you can't be selling everything. And then you need, and so it's like a lot of it just kind of came out of necessity. And it was like, how do we build something sustainable? We called it D2D experts from the get-go because it wasn't a Sam Taggart Academy. This wasn't about me. It was like, how do we make something that could live beyond me? You know what I mean? And what's cool is just different departments have their own autonomy. They have their own flow. But I don't know if like there was ever a moment where it was like, oh, I'm going to have my own headquarters and I'm going to have my own training center and I'm going to have my own, XYZ. It's really just been kind of like gone from basement to office space, back to basement during COVID and back to, and I eventually just got to the point where I was like, man, I'm renting this office space for $5,000 a month. And then I have to get a venue for an event every single month because we do sales boot camps every month and business boot camps every month. And it was like $5,000 a month for that. So then I'm like, I'm in real estate. Can I just invest money into real estate and then have our own space? We can do whatever we want.
It's super exciting. I love coming out here. I love for your book launch event. And, I want to go back earlier because I remember there's a specific conversation we had. I don't know if you remember this. It really stood out to me. And it was, you're getting ready for Door-to-Door Con, the year of COVID. Mm-hmm. And like your headliners were canceling. No one was coming out anymore. Right. And I think you had to move it to
Grand
America.
Yeah.
I left Door-to-Door, was trying to do coaching, one-on-one stuff. And I had like a course. It wasn't selling very well. And I'm like when you start as an entrepreneur, you think it's going to be super easy. You're going to figure it out. Then you just get your teeth kicked in. And so I had a mentor encourage me to start selling a webinar. And I'm like, I don't know what a webinar is. So I hired someone to help me with a webinar. And I like gave like this webinar speech that was like an hour again and again and again. Anyways, I reached out to you. You're like, hey, I need a speaker coach for Door-to-Door Con. Do you have like a keynote? And I'm like, yeah, I have a keynote. I've been practicing it for the last 3 months with my webinar. So I was like prepared. Anyway, so I went and spoke at your Door-to-Door Con in 2020. And you said something in the back of the green room. You're telling me the story, how like you were going through like some internal struggle in your life. You're like some crossroads. And you took like a very intentional, and I want to hear the story from you, but you took like this intentional time to go meditate, to kind of separate. And you felt like you got like this clear download that like you needed to create this training platform.
Yeah.
Right. Can you share more about that story? Because I remember it touched me. It was very profound.
Yeah. I think a lot of things have come from clear, get time in the mountain. And, but Door-to-Door Con and all of this exists because of that. I was in a mastermind, I got in it probably in my later years at Vivint, then I was in it in Solstice. And one of the retreats that they did was to go sit on a rock in southern Utah. And it was 3-day fast, 3-day silence, 3-day by yourself. And I'm like, and I'm paying you for this? You know what I mean? And I liked I'm up for the challenge, whatever. And they brought you a gallon of water every day and just kind of was like, good luck. And, it was day 2 that I was meditating and that's where the vision of the D2D con happened. And I think, as clear as day, I'm like, God's like, you need to go start a conference. And I was like, oh, shoot, like, me? Why me? Like, why would it be me? And it was just, and then I get home and I was like, no, no, no. And it just like wouldn't leave my mind. And I think that's when something's knocking on your door. Question is, are you going to answer that call? And I finally was just like, all right, I'm effing going to do it. I post on Facebook, hey, I want to throw this event. What should we call it? You know what I mean? And that's really where it stemmed.
Yeah. So I'd love to go a little bit deeper because, I love chatting with you because it's been cool. We've been kind of going through like spiritual journeys at the same time. And, we've evolved, back, we were competitors of Vivint, and now we've kind of gone through like these more intentional journeys. Can you share more about how you differentiate this is a desire, I want to create this thing, versus this is a calling, like this is from God, like this is something I'm supposed to do, almost like a surrendered state? Like, how do you differentiate the two?
Everybody always wants, like, I have a lot of people call me and they're like, I want to be you. I should have been you. I should have did. I'm like, you don't necessarily want that. Like, I don't think your subconscious knows the amount of sacrifice and the time and the energy. And the second you might go on that path, you're going to sabotage it. And I think that's the difference between a calling and purpose and a desire or like a want. Does that make sense? So it's like a want typically manifests itself as a failing purpose because your soul is not sitting there saying, I'll do whatever it takes to make this work. Where I had to quit as a VP at a big solar company, leave millions of dollars, leave 100 reps, leave sure thing to go into like what you just alluded to is early on when you go start a business, you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And then 6 months in, you're like, I have lost so much money. It's like, and that fear of like, I could always go back to doors, I could always go back and make a solar commission or a roof or whatever. But like the purpose, like you knew it was a call when you're like, that doesn't even entice me.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a feeling of like surrender of like, okay, I know I'm on a mission right now and no distraction, no person, no wall, no obstacle come my way. Am I afraid to like bounce over?
And the thing I want to highlight there too, one reason why, I love door-to-door for multiple reasons. A major reason is that if you can learn the skill of transacting cold calling door-to-door, you have this subconscious safety net.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, I can go send it at this business, go all in, because worst case scenario, I'm knocking doors tomorrow. Like, and so it gives you like this level of confidence where I think we underestimate that as door-to-door guys. We're typical entrepreneurs, like stakes are really high where they're like, if this doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do.
But that could be to a demise. And I've seen that kill people's dreams in a lot of ways too, because I've watched people not be willing to leave and chase like a true calling because they use that safety net. And it's like, I don't think a lot of people can make the switch. Like I'm starting, I have a business partnership on this recruiting side of things that we do. And one of the guys wanted equity. And I'm like, dude, but you're a sales brain. No offense. And I'm like, in 6 months, when you haven't gotten a paycheck, you're going to be asking, what's my salary? What's my salary? What's my this? And I'm like, you're an entrepreneur now, dude. Like you want to have equity? You want to be a partner? You're an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people don't realize like to go make a $500,000 being the business owner is a much different $500,000 than being a sales rep.
Totally.
Does that make sense? Like you got to pay legal costs and software costs and you got a million different things you're juggling and you still have to sell. You know what I mean? And I think naturally even people goes into sales management feel that same pain. They're like, why would I manage and babysit all these people when I could just go sell more and make more? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I remember going through that process too, where it's like, why keep building these teams at Vivint when I could just put my head down, right, and go rip.
But that's the difference between an entrepreneur, leader, manager, builder, and producer. And the world needs producers. But at some point, that producer mentality is actually the main thing that's getting in the way for you to actually go build something meaningful.
No, shifting gears a little bit, because I do want to talk some door-to-door stuff with you. This industry has changed, but it hasn't, right? It's like there's all these kind of new opportunities arriving, but at the end of the day, people are still grinding. I'm curious from your perspective, because you're vast in the industry. You work with roofers, you work with insurance, you're with solar, you work with pest, right? You're with everyone. What's like the state of the union of door to door right now?
Every year, everybody always assumes it couldn't get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I remember when I first started, they're like, you're going into a dying industry. Why would you promote this? And I'm like, every year that stage gets bigger with more golden door winners. Every year there's a new vertical. Tomorrow I have a business boot camp webinar that I'm doing. I have 90 business owners, and I go look at the amount of companies, and what we did a survey with all of them. And we said, okay, what industries are? And I go scroll through, and it was like 22% solar, 18% roofing, and then 29% other. And I was like, okay, what's all these other categories, right? And it's painting, insurance, window cleaning, window repair, window, you know what I mean? I just go through all the different industries. I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting, you know what I mean? And we were starting to see door to door start to sophisticate in other industries. So you look at Windows, had the second largest golden door presence at Door to Door Con this last year.
Number two.
Wow. And you look at solar, and it is way less than it used to be. Solar used to be the number one. And pest, you think of like it had the number one. So we're like, okay, pest has been around for so long, but why did it just get so much sexier? It's because it's been more sophisticated. They're increasing the contract values. They've figured out a way to sell it at a high volume, make it a more year-round sustainable thing. There's more equity values. You know what I mean? And all these things are like, oh, but it's been around for 25 years. Nothing's changed. You just go knock, you sell pest control. It's really not innovative. Yeah. But now you look at Windows, and you're like, never had anyone really sophisticated door knocking in window replacement, where now I have clients that have done, 0 to 150 million in 3 years, 0 to 60 million in 4 years. And and they're all like branching off and starting new locations. And it's like, not even penetrated at all the US. And it's like, they're looking at it as a green, a blue ocean of like new opportunity. Well, that same things can happen in window, turf is a big one, home remodeling, and all the other categories of home service. And even, I have a client tomorrow, I have a call with dentist. I have a call with, so many other just random things you wouldn't even think of. I just think there were the core businesses, and people were starting to look at like, oh, my skill set is adapted in anything. Yeah. What's the opportunity?
And I think that, I had a big paradigm shift recently to your point that I think this industry is just going to get bigger and bigger. Is initially when like all the chat GPT and the AI stuff came out, people were like, oh my gosh, it's going to take my job. AI is going to do all the sales. Why hire people when I have AI? But the reality is I don't know if you're catching on too, but like, because AI is generating so much content right now, we discredit it. It's like, it's AI. It doesn't mean as much. Someone didn't really write this. Chat GPT wrote it. And so it discredits the value of it. And because all of the content I think we're going to see online is going to be discredited, the value of in-person face-to-face is going to skyrocket.
Well, you just look at like, okay, it's you on the internet versus AI. Who wins?
Yeah.
You versus a robocaller that's an actual really well-trained AI agent. Congrats. And when you get a random cold call and you can't even tell if it's an AI or not, you're going to then just assume it's AI.
Yeah.
And then you're like, this is AI. No, I'm so good that you don't think I'm AI, but I am AI. Like, It's going that direction.
Yeah.
So you're like, AI is not going to replace the human showing up to somebody's face, their office. And it's like, you're discrediting more and more, and it's inundating more and more. And then it just becomes like you just said. So I just think it's only it's like bell bottoms. It's coming back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I swear, I was at my house the other day and I'm just hanging out on my front porch. It's like, I always hang out right when sun's coming down. And I live in like a family neighborhood, and there was this teenager kid. He's probably like 14, 15 years old. And he's straight up walking by in Jankos. Jankos, and I'm like, he's wearing like a no fear t-shirt. And
no way,
no
fear is
a no fear in Jankos.
I need to bring back my sweats.
Well, I really
big pockets, dude. Overalls are coming back.
It's coming back,
dude.
Man.
There's some cool. I just think door to door, it will be over the next 10 years a vertical, and I'm watching. You look at the major fiber companies like Google and stuff, and they're going, we need to get these fiber lines into people's homes. How do we do it? And then you look at the 30%, so State of Union, home service business like HVAC, roofing, it's costing about 30% more to create a customer online than it used to about 2 years ago. So you're like, okay,
why is it costing 30% more?
So private money is moving into home services, which is beautiful for our industry, but it's also scary for the traditional like little business. So you see a lot of mergers happening. You look at the consolidation in home services. because money's coming in and saying, hey, we'll buy the little guys, flip it, turn it in arbitrage. And so you say, okay, then they're going to pump ad spend on Google. Now you're competing with the billionaires on, we don't even know what a ROAS is, but we got to spend $100,000 every day on ads. And that you are a mom and pa in that same market buying ad space. You're toast.
Yeah.
And so they're sitting there going, oh, shiz, we're getting our asses handed to us by the private equity's money, buying all the ad space. So it drives costs up.
From my perspective, because I work with a lot of guys one-on-one, obviously more interpersonal stuff, but where I see the trend happening is I do think like everything will consolidate to like a home. Everyone will be knocking home services. It'll be like knock on the door, HVAC, right? Solar, redo your roof. It's all going to be.
It's either you're going to go online and self-order through just a click, done, or it's going to be bought in the home.
Yeah, point of contact. Yeah,
Point
of sale. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, people, I hear a time where like, I want to get out of door to door. It's, but I'm like, there's probably very few job opportunities right now that are going to be as lucrative as this
It's
thing.
Amazon or point of contact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going one or the other. I want to just click, done. Or I need somebody to come and actually like, that's my buying style.
Yeah. Now, on that note, you're expanding, right? I noticed you guys are doing door-to-door con Canada.
Yes.
Right. Tell me more about that.
So, I just landed a Canadian speaker, Daniel G. Do you know who that is? Danny G? He's like a sales dude. And I'm like, I want Canadian speakers. I want to make it really a Canadian event. That's harder to set. Like, who's good in Canada? Steve Nash? Yeah. I was like, who am I? Drake? Wayne Jetski? Yeah, exactly. I was like, Justin Bieber? Like, in my head. And so I went down the list of Canadian people. And no, so we want local Canadian speakers, workshoppers, most of the trainers or Canadian companies. We've just had, I think there's a bigger presence in door-to-door worldwide than people think.
I mean, 20-30% of Alchemy came from Canada.
There's a lot of people in the world. And surprisingly, over the last 8 years, we've built big networks in different countries. And so we're piloting Canada. If that goes well, maybe we'll do Australia next year. And it's just hard for them to all travel to U.S. to come to DoorDoorCon U.S. when they all want to, but the cost and the convenience isn't there. So we're like, hey, let's do kind of a bigger event in Canada that's different and bring it to them. So
is the goal to go global?
Yeah, it's just kind of like, how can we franchise this out? So it's like, I have somebody that would love to do, Europe, another guy that would love to, and it's like, hey, if we can get enough people to rally behind it, why not?
Yeah. No, one question I was thinking about asking you as coming over here is you work with like world-class top performers every industry. You've got your golden door standards, right? And, it's very competitive. You see certain companies really embrace it, right? And leverage it within their own company. I'm curious from your point, because most of the people who listen to my podcast are still outselling. And they're kind of in this growth phase where they're like, hey, I've got my sales skills kind of figured out. Now I know that the next piece of my development is me, right? So that's when they work with me. And at the same time, they also have maybe a potential a couple people underneath them who are also looking to step up. And so having been like in the trenches in multiple industries, what would you say to a rep to how to develop young talent, I guess, where I'm trying to get to? Like, let's say there's a rep listening to this. It's got 3 guys underneath them. He's trying to get them to step up. Like, what are the top people doing in developing leaders? And what are some of those best practices and principles?
I want you to think of it as like selling. If you always are talking about the features, you're never going to sell. But if you talk about the benefits, you're going to sell, right? And so in developing people, it's similar in the sense of our natural brain. The natural salesperson goes to the tactical, say this, do this, where really it needs to be beyond that of what's the interpersonal development that needs to happen to develop this human, not necessarily what's the tactical, say this, say this, say this, say this. There's an element of, let's say 20, like that 80-20 rule, 20% of it should be the tactical. Have you got your script memorized? Yes or no? Have you got it, backwards and forward? Do you know the 5 one-liners per objection that you, and pass them off? Like a true, take like the combine. It's like, can you run your 440? Can you do the hurdle? Can you do this long jump? Can we test some of the vitals? We'll call that. And then 80% of that is like, what's going on with the limiting beliefs? What's going on with their confidence? What's going on with their desire? What's going on in their interpersonal life that's holding them back from thinking bigger? Because the sad part is like most people kind of are bottom of the barrel they go in and fill out a job application and direct sales. They're like, oh, might as well take a sales job. But they have aspirations, or else they wouldn't do this with an uncapped potential. That's like a shiny object that attracted them to this job. So now you're like, okay, let's really uncap your potential by uncapping the mental governor that maybe you self-imposed on, like through just past experience in life. And they come from maybe a poor mindset and a poor background and a poor way of thinking. So a lot of your work needs to just be breathing hope and life into these people.
You mentioned confidence, and if a stranger were to come to me and be like, hey, what are the characteristic traits of Sam Taggart? One of the first things I would say is like, he has like a unreasonable, undeniable level of high self-confidence, like always like high self-belief, high self-confidence. And it's really rare for someone to carry themselves with such high standards. Is that something that you feel like you've always had, or is that something you had to build for yourself with such a high level of self-esteem?
It's funny, I've interviewed a lot of top performers on the podcast, and I think there's like top 1% have some level of autism, like on a spectrum. You know what I mean? I was like,
so I got diagnosed with autism.
Did you?
Yeah, I really did.
I was so like, I'm like, I probably have some level of just like uneligible, like, I don't compute, like when people probably perceive me wrong. I probably had this level of I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm the first to get up and like act like a goof at the party. I'm the first one to dance. I'm the first one to
wear your parachute.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, whatever you can say. And I think it's so funny, this like the cool kids in high school. I wasn't the cool kid, right? Like, but I'll tell you what, I probably didn't realize I wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't care. Like, and so I think the more you can help people realize that when you stop trying to look good and you start just living in your center and core and just saying, if I try to be like everyone else and fit in and look good and do what they're doing, that's actually the thing that's holding me back from being extraordinary, because I'm actually being with ordinary people. And I think too many people are trying to fit in and trying to act like everyone else. And I think from a young age, I was the kid, like in high school, I wore lime green jeans my first day with the, just like to school. Like, I just was like, how do I be different? And I think if you had this embrace of be different, and it's okay to fight the grain a little bit instead of be in the grain. I've always had that. And I just think I said, how do I expand on that? And too many people have it, but they've suppressed it, if that makes sense. And it's just due to the fact that their mom or their brothers are like, why are you so different? It's like, everyone is different. We were born unique. Yeah. It's how do I enhance that? And find that uniqueness.
Yeah, and another question I follow up is, I know you've overcome some pretty difficult trials in your life, and definitely have had some adversity. And what would you say to someone who's like in the thick of something that's really difficult? Most of my life's pretty good. I'm a peak performer. Things are going well, but you have those moments where the valleys come.
I'm in one right now. It's on my wrist. I tattooed the valleys, bro. Yeah. And I feel like I've been getting hit from a financial standpoint so hard from so many ways. I just had a guy steal over $1 million from me.
Yeah, tell me more about
that. Like, you'd think a friend, somebody you're close to, that you trusted, flat out lied and stole. Like, it wasn't like a bad investment gone bad. It was, here's some money, put it in Bitcoin 6 years ago. Like, a lot of money. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I spent your money. I took it out and just spent it. Like it's like, and then on top of that, a hard money loan. He's supposed to pay it back in 60 days, gone. And then on top of that, a cap call for $500,000. On top of that, just, like, I could just go on, and it's just like, holy shit. Like, none of these are even in my control. Like what did I do to, and so I spent a lot of time in the last probably 6 weeks meditating on this, right? Like, okay, I'm in a valley, get my teeth kicked in, and then you come back to, let's think about it. Where are you going? Does that make sense? Like, you get out of this valley, you run up the mountain, you're now on top of the mountain. Then what? Whether you're in a valley or you're on a mountain and you're crushing, the reality is, does that change who you are? And I think money is only an amplifier. Yeah. It amplifies who you are as a character. And I think too many people, they justify their character based on their money, based on their success, based on like their accolades, their likes on social, whatever it is. And I'm like, if you can start to detach and let go of all of that's cool, but it's just designed to amplify really, who am I? And when you can find center in that of like, I'm not going to devalue or change my character. I'm not going to spiral into dumb addictions. I'm not going to, that's just not who I am, whether I had money or don't have money. I'm still a giver. I'm still a authentic person. I'm still a fun person to be around despite the valley.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, guess what you start to attract? The mountain again.
It's so profound you say that too, because there's also this piece of, being true to who you are on a principle level base. And we also are, reinventing ourselves a lot. There's so many versions of Sam, so many versions of Doug that have gone through, so many versions of Sam, right? And it's kind of like this never ending cycle of like death and rebirth with kind of our core principles. And, I look at you just in the last 10 years that I could see a couple versions of Sam, right? And
not just with the hair, guys.
Yeah. It's just every time the hair changes, Sam's going through something.
Exactly. About to shave it off, guys.
It's like when that wife gets divorced, she cuts her hair off and dyes it purple.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep an eye on Sam's hair if you know he's okay or not.
Yes. Yeah.
And so talk to me a little bit from my perspective. I've noticed you've really embraced kind of like this more being a spiritual being more in tune, being more and I would say rhythm with life. Talk to me a little bit more about that awakening, because we both grew up Mormon.
Yeah.
We both went on missions, and we've pivoted and kind of
Guys, fun fact, me and Doug both trained my dad's
missionaries.
We were in New Jersey training the missionaries together. It was such a fun day.
That was fun. We went out, had to put a suit on.
Yeah.
I didn't have one. I think I wore one of your dad's suits.
Yeah, it's just like too big or something.
And me and you were training the elders. That was a good time, man. That's crazy. And we both kind of, reestablished and we created a new relationship with God. Talk to me about what your transition was like, because growing up Mormon, it's like very intense. And then, blossoming out of that, what was that transition like for you?
I think a moment of, valley in life, hardship, is only God's refining opportunity for change. And I think it's a lesson, like right now, I let go like 4 employees and I'm just like, hey, we got to restart a new department here and I got to dial in this and hire a new, and you know what I mean? It was like, wow, I'm excited what's on the other side of all this change that I've been wanting to do anyway. You know what I mean? And that's from a financial, but I think when you get hit in life with a divorce or with a, loss of a loved one or something like that, those are also more emotional and they're more not so financial or success based.
Yeah.
And
can I touch real quick on the divorce thing, because it's something I haven't experienced. I've had really close people in my life experience it, and kind of like an unspoken emotion I've picked up on is like the amount of shame.
Oh, so hard.
Comes with that.
That's the reason I stayed married as long as I did.
Yeah.
I was unhappily married for 7 of the 9 years. You know what I mean? But it was like, that word doesn't get brought up. Like, let's not get divorced, right? Like, it was like, there's no way. And then I realized, I'm like, maybe I could be happier, better not together. I wrote a song about that. And it's just like, maybe I could be a better dad. Maybe I could, I changed the perspective of like, maybe I've been holding on to this like weird identity. And it's a long-winded answer to actually answer your thing. And so I said, blank canvas. I don't want to just like justify doing bad things by now being divorced. I think a lot of people do that. There's a justification of like, I want to sin now. But it was more so like, I actually want to blank canvas everything. What a cool opportunity to blank canvas where I live, blank canvas who I associate with, how I think, my spirituality, because I also had a significant other that I had accountability to, right? Which there's some pros and cons to that, right? When you have a significant other, it's like, I don't want to offend. I don't want to like break values. I don't want to, you know what I mean? So it's like we operate in these constructs of our, agreements in our cultures, right? And so I just allowed myself to explore and kind of go down a journey, which was beautiful. And now being remarried, it's causing another kind of, where does that value system fit in, right? And it has friction. There's ups and downs. There's disagreement. There's like, you're in alignment here. I'm not in alignment there. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the power of relationship, but also the demise of a relationship is it takes away the freedom a little bit. But I think God's built us to be in relationship of some sort. So it's like, I, went to my mom and I'm like, I'm on a journey. And she's like, you go on that journey. And I was like, expecting.
Your mom is awesome.
Yeah. Just like I was expecting when I'm like, I'm going to divorce Katie. She's like, about time. I was like, oh shit. Like, and then she goes, I'm going on a journey. She's like, you go on that. And luckily I had built up this internal belief system that I was going to be ostracized and I was going to be shamed. And some families maybe do that, but I didn't trust my family and every single one of my family members are like, yeah, cool. Like we've done that too. You know what I mean? Or like in their own context. And I'm like, really? How come I never talked about this? Like, how come this is never a topic at the dinner table? And they gave me kind of this permission to just be like, whatever, man. Like we still love you regardless. And if you really think of God, he still loves you regardless. You can't do anything to break unconditional love. And I think shame is the bottom frequency. It's the lowest frequency. If you talk like you go down a frequency, Dr. Hawkins thing, shame is that number one frequency. And there's a difference between shame and guilt. And I think this is where people that carry guilt, it's fine. I did something. I feel bad for doing something. Where shame is like who I am as a human is inherently bad.
Yep.
And I watch people that are religious or even spiritual, they say, but I'm like, if you were truly spiritual, you wouldn't carry shame with you. You would know that that is a frequency that does not exist with love and light and faith. And I'm like, but so many people operate their marriage, their religion, their life in shame, and they're stuck in this box. And I think I was afraid of shame of getting divorced. I was afraid of shame of exploring different religion, sex, and all this stuff. Like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the trap in which it was, you know what I mean? Like, bah.
Yeah. You know, my coach, his name's Andrew Horn. I had him on the podcast, you know, we just released an episode a couple of weeks ago, and he talks about this. He says, this is the number one crutch for men across the country, across the world, is their inability to handle and work with their own shame, right? Because we have these experiences where we do something we regret, or we feel like we're gonna let someone down. And then again, to your point, it's like we carry the shame, and shame is I am inherently bad, or who I am as an individual is wrong or broken. And then we hold it in, we don't speak it. And when we don't speak it, right, it builds and it builds. And then we think, okay, I'm carrying this weight. And if anyone knew what I was carrying, right, they would for sure wouldn't love me. So therefore, I must achieve something outside of myself to prove my worth, success or money or whatever it may be. And then we play this game, filling our internal void with what's called dirty fuel. I'm putting dirty fuel in my body because I'm inherently broken and wrong. Therefore, I have to achieve something outside of myself to feel whole. And it creates a cycle. And I think we both have had times in our lives where we've been playing that game.
100%.
And, you know, as you tap into, you know, going back to David R. Hawkins, you know, map of consciousness, letting go, power versus force, right? One of my all-time favorite authors, living at that state of like pure joy and love, enthusiasm, and really changing your relationship with shame. It's liberation. And it's something that I've seen you've gone through.
Well, we've all heard the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
Which your inability to speak that truth, live that truth authentically, communicate that truth. You know, like this weekend, it was just a battle between D and I. Like I'm in Vegas at an event that we were hosting for our CEO group. And, you know, EDC was this weekend. And I was like, oh shit, it's like, I kind of want to stay and go to EDC. And she's like, I do not want you to go to EDC without me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, come out. She's like, I don't want to go. I don't align. Right. And I'm like, that's a very conscious thing. Right. And, you know, but I had to like, you know, and we had talked about it before, and she's like, I don't feel comfortable. And I was like, okay. So I call her and I was trying to resell her again, you know, but I was like, man, if I don't vocalize my truth of I want to go, and if we can't come to an agreement, I won't go, that's fine. But it was like, I almost felt shame for wanting to go without her. And I was like, am I bad for like desiring to go to this festival thing? Like I never go to, like, I was like, why not? Like I have a bunch of friends going, like it'd be fun. But it's a simple example of like, now do I feel shame if I don't say it to her and then I go, or do I feel guilty because I didn't tell her, or do I communicate my needs and then she communicates her needs and we come to a compromise? Like, you know, this element of like, can you speak your truth even when it's in disagreement or it could hurt someone's feelings or whatever? And then the second question, can you live that truth? And then, you know, it's like we go every day not knowing how to communicate to get out of embarrassment, shame, those frequencies. And we continue to almost build these, you know, your body will start to keep score. It's like, that's where emotional fat comes in. That's where, you know, these bad actions and outlays of your emotions with addiction and things like that come out, is because we don't know how to process that.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about the importance of like true quality communication with your partner? Because obviously it's a skill you have to learn. And before we can be excellent communicators, we have to be poor communicators, right? And so, obviously marriage 1 versus marriage 2, what's the difference in communication been?
I'm lucky enough to where it's like golf. I want to make a shirt that says like player 2, that's like, it's like always good. I get a second do-over. And I consciously went into this do-over knowing there's some things you can't undo communicating with the partner, and we build up habits. So it's like, can we build positive habits of communicating? And, there's tactical side of that. Like, what did you hear me say? That's not what I said. Like, you know what I mean? Because we just naturally want to hear what we want to hear. And so we interpret things different. And then there's, so there's tactical and how you start up like a soft startup. Like, how do I want to start this conversation without just coming in guns blazing? Or there's like tactical fighting. Yesterday, it was like, we're in a battle. She saw a text come through and she gets all triggered. And I'm like, what the freak? Like, why are we spending an hour on this stupid text message that means nothing? Like, and I just have to like go wrestle her and jump around and like, just, I was like, I'll bang you. Like, let's just like, and it was like the opposite of what you would think would do. But I'm like, I know it's emotionally, she just wants this. She just wants to know that you choose her. And women communicate. If you're a dude listening to this, like, here's a hack. Like, they don't communicate with tactic and logic. They just communicate with feeling and emotion. So if you try to beat them at the game of, I'm going to outsmart her and make a debate, you're never going to win. Like, you just don't win. Like, you could logically win this fight all day, but you lose.
One of my favorite quotes with that concept is, if you want to change her mind, change her mood.
Yeah, change her mood. So I just had to wrestle her and just like, which makes no sense. But I'm like, I've spent an hour trying to beat the defense mechanism. And I'm like, let's change my approach. I got to change my approach.
I remember my relationship coach, so I was in a previous relationship with one of my favorite partners I've ever had. Her name's Erin. I love her to death still. Was telling me, that she's like, hey, just remember, men talk to solve problems and women talk to feel good. And I'm like, okay, I didn't quite get it.
You won't ever get that.
Like, then later on, Erin and I got into a tiff, and I can't remember what it was. I don't even remember what it was about. And she was really, built up over it. And so she's like, I'm coming over and I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. Right. And so she comes over to my house and she sits on my couch and she's just giving it to me like this, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this. And I just let her talk the whole time. I don't interrupt her. I just look her in the eyes and I'd say, yeah, that makes sense. I totally agree with you. Right. She gets to the end of everything she was saying. We didn't come to a resolution. Like, there was no solution solved to the situation. We still didn't know what we were going to do. And she just goes, I feel so much better. Let's go get dinner. And I'm like,
the hardest part. Okay. This is the hardest part as a dude. Cause you just like got freaking the dumpster dumped onto you. And you're just like, you just word vomited for 45 minutes onto me. And it's just, as a dude, not catching that.
Yeah.
Because you get emotionally charged. You're like, you're wrong. All this isn't even making sense. Let's look at a calendar and I will show you exactly where you're, you know what I mean? Like, and you want to defend it with your argument. And then it's like, but they're like, oh, I'm totally fine. And I'm like, but now I'm not.
Yeah.
Right. And now you want to almost feel validated. The worst time to validate is in that moment. Because it's like, you have to find a different outlet, a different time to say, hey, can I have a conversation with you? But not in that moment,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
And so it's things like that of like, I had to learn that the real hard way, because that's what really creates this never-ending fight of like, okay, now hear me. And it's like, you're never going to get anywhere. But as you learn to build relations, like, I think the greatest skill set is when you just realize how to communicate, what fights do you want to lose and which ones is like not worth fighting? Which ones can you just, and that comes with time. I think a lot of people early on in relationships struggle, and then they never put ground rules, they never put boundaries, they never put best practices, they never intentionally create habits around a relationship modality. And what do they want it to be? A lot of people focus on what they don't want it to be, and that's what they get. But if you can focus on what, like, we have a relationship mantra, and it's like, 10 different bullet points of what do we want our relationship to look like. And it's like, when we go down the rabbit hole of like, we're sloping, it's kind of like, can we just go back to our mantra? Like, this is what we want. How do we rebuild this? How do we focus on this? Because it's like, people see us or they see me and they think, oh, he's so successful. I'm like, guys, I just lost $2 million. Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Bigger the,
doesn't feel good.
No pain, like, bigger the moves, the bigger the loses, right? Like, and you're just like, fuck, like, in a relationship, you're like, we are in a high vibe, high moving, high pace, not easy life. And that causes more conflict. Like, But it's not the stuff you see on social media, but it's like, I just have to intentionally know how to play a game of resolution.
On that, I'm curious too, as you talk about like navigating this fast paced life, what have you learned about blending families?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Because you had some from your previous.
3 with mine, and she has 1 with hers.
She has 1 with her previous. So
Yeah.
1 coming from her, 3 coming from you. Yeah. What, tell me about a blended family.
It's wonderful with my crazy life in some regards. Cause like yesterday I got home from our trip and it was like, we don't have kids. So I had all day with D and it was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Permanent babysitter. You know what I mean? So I hate to say that, but like when you're dealing with trying to parent and there is now kind of 3 parties involved, I have one way of parenting, just like, I'll use the example. Yesterday we go on a run and we go down Dimpledale, and I think it's stupid to have your dogs on a leash. Well, D is like, it's disrespectful to have your dogs on a leash or not have them on a leash because they could get bit. And, eventually it's just, and I'm like, they're not built to be on a leash. We're in the effing forest, right?
Yeah.
So that would be one thing of just how it's so stupid. And it's about dogs and it's about respect for others and it's about safety and all the things. And I'm like, it's about freedom. It's about, I don't want to hold a leash. It's about whatever. Where parenting's the same thing. It's like, you see kids and they're getting parented one way and you're like, I would never teach my kids having this. Where'd you learn these habits? Like, why are you all into video games, dude? Like, oh, because that's what they do at dad's. I can't stop dad from playing video games. But over here, you're like, you want to like uber correct. We don't even have to play video games here. Like, sucks to suck. Like,
yeah.
Now you're the bad guy because you're taking away this thing. But it's like, we teach this and we teach this. But then it's like, well, then I just have to want to go to my dad's now. And you're just like, at what point? But you kind of have to say, at our home, the blended value system of the Taggarts is this, and you hold the line and have disciplines. I think over time, what they'll come to learn is like, hey, I'm so grateful for even the things that I was frustrated with at dad's, because at mom's we get to do this, or at ex-dad we get to do this. It's like you just have to learn how to put on the Taggart hat when they come in. And it's almost like 3-4 hours of like recreating it every time they come back. And then they're like, oh, I love this. So that's kind of been the lesson.
Yeah. It sounds like, between your family home with the kids and with that you're very value driven, right? It's like, these are the standards, the values that our relationship is built upon. And I love that you have that to go back to when things fall off the wagon. It's like, hey, things are not where we need them to be. How do we get back on? Let's go back to our values.
If people don't have family values, personal values, and business values, and they can be similar, but it's like you have to have that. And I think you should have a family, and a business mission statement. You need, like, how culture is designed is it's the shared habits, values, things that you enjoy, purpose. That's culture. And I think every family needs a culture. Every relationship needs a culture. Every person needs its own individual culture. You said, if I think of any characteristic of Sam, he's confident. It's like, well, that's the culture in which I want to cultivate, right? I think too many people never designed out like what culture are they cultivating, because they're just living life and it's happening to them instead of happening by design.
Yeah. Are there any values, and maybe there's a few, that are similar from relationship, home, and business?
One of them in the family is adventure. One of them in my personal life is experience, and business is an experience. But experience in business is different, where it's like the experts and then customer experience, and then it's like we want to create an awesome experience, like enjoy experiences. Like we take people all over the world. I was in Vegas doing a cool leadership thing last week, and we go to Iceland this fall and all over. But it's in the home, it's more like we value adventure. It's not so much about experience like that, but it's similar in the same regard. Or like a personal value, I have creativity, where in business I have innovation. Where I'm like, they're similar. Like I'm all about ideas and individualism, and can everybody bring stuff to the table, and there's a free space to kind of say, let's innovate, right? I'm always breaking ourselves. Like we just came up with new DD 2.0 and new platforms and all this stuff. Where in my personal life, it's like songwriting and art, and you know what I mean? It's the creative side that I really value.
Yeah. Would you say that as you deepen your exploration within your own creativity, do you see that transfer into your business as well?
Entrepreneur, it's like another title for entrepreneur should be creator. Another title for man should be creator. Another title for, you know what I mean? Like, Like we're built to do that. And I think one of the highest physical realms of creativity is entrepreneurship.
From my perspective, as you talk about like evolution and your creativity, I noticed a massive leap in the quality of your last book, right? Like this was like, oh, like
It's a book.
it's a book, like
Yeah.
legit sales book that's going to like go down as an all-time sales book. Cause I remember going through it. I'm like, this is legit. Right. And so from your perspective, right, it was your third book, fourth book, third book, right? So the first two, it's like you're kind of getting your feet underneath you, right? And then this one, like you came out hot, like landed. I'm like, damn, like this is a mic drop book. Talk to us a little bit about that process of like really taking that step up in that creative pursuit.
Think the concept between creator and implementer. And I think there's a difference between creative and implementer. And it's like in me in business. I come up with a million ideas that I'll half-ass because I'm all about quick, get it done.
Efficient.
I'm efficient. I'm producer. There's a difference between effective and efficient. And I think what I'm learning as I develop myself in entrepreneurship is to lead people, you can't just go quick and efficient. They need, like for me, it's like, got it, curse of knowledge. I've already know all this shit. Let's get it done, go. But it's like, how do you follow that? So a good example would be a kayak versus a cruise ship. It's like you can ride a row and kayak all day and go where you want, fast as you want. But when you're trying to move real meaningful things, it takes meaningful parts, efficiency. You think of a cruise ship, the amount of staff and logistics and coordination and departments and planning, like, you know what I mean? It takes like a whole squad. And to be honest, the dude that designed the creative side of a cruise ship, I want to make this ship that's got water slides and this and this. If you had him making the water slides and you had him designing the food and you had him, like, he knew what he wanted. He's like, I want this type of experience and I want this type of show and I want this type of, you don't want him doing all the execution. Right. And so on this book, I had a publisher, I had, a creative writer, I had editors, I had a team that was on producing the launch. I had, I spent meaningful dollars in time. It took 3 years. It wasn't like I wrote the first one in a week at Lake Powell on a laptop,
right?
Where I wrote this one over a 3-year process. And it's like, if I want a legacy book, I can't do this with an impatient attitude and I'm going to do it all. I need multiple editors. I need multiple staff to make sure this thing goes to launch right. And now we sold close to 8,000 copies in a matter of 4 months.
Yeah, you're crushing.
And I'm like, I wanted something that I could be proud of. And I realized to create, it's going to require investment, the proper team, and not so sloppy, Sam. Because my natural is just like, whatever, do it. Like, and I'm realizing that doesn't, like, you want to make real money and real impact and real business. Like, you can't just like half-ass throw something together anymore.
I mean, well, it really showed, man. I was blown away and so impressed by like the quality of that. And I could tell the amount of attention to detail that you put into the whole experience, from book launch to the party to, being on podcasts to doing webinars, whatnot. And on that too, like from my perspective, I also see that also into your business. Like your email campaigns that you've turned on in the last couple of months have been incredible. Right. So talk to me a little bit more about like the way you see your business today. Like there's a level up happening with like your name and your brand and your webinars, and like it feels like you're kind of taking that next step. Is that something you feel for yourself?
100%. Like, and I just knew I made the conscious decision 1.5 years ago. That's the thing. It's just now manifesting itself as of the last 4 or 5 months. And the sucky part is like, I have a mantra. It's like, change the team or change the team. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think a lot of times a mentor of mine was like, the people in your business or life today aren't necessarily the people that are going to be the ride or dies forever, and they serve their time and purpose. And it's not like in a negative way. Like, it's like, oh, you're above them or anything like that. It's just, we go through chapters. And I think you get to a point where you either have to make cuts. It's just like a sales org. It's like, if you don't cut the guys that suck, then you can't advance and attract the guys that are really good. And I got to a point over the last few months that I just was like, there's no more riding Sam's coattails. Like, and I've had a lot of that over the years where it's like, I'm so good at producing that I can just carry the weight of everyone and keep people around, and it's great and it's fine and dandy. Now I'm to the point where I'm like, how do I go find and hire people that are much smarter, better, and faster than me? and pay a little bit more. And maybe that's because I can afford it now, or maybe that's because I'm willing to take bigger investments, or I've just been so tired of paying, let's say you paid for $5,000 a month for this guy. And then you're like, you could get a guy for $8,000. I've always had the mentality, pay the guy $5,000. And now I'm kind of like, F that, pay the guy the $8,000.
Yeah.
Cause they're going to give you 4 times the return. Where I always had like I'll shop at DI and I'll go to something.
You shop at DI.
I do. Dude. Like, I'm like, give me the cheap, simple. I don't really care. But now I'm realizing like, you're only going to get so far if you continue to have that mentality. So it's like, why don't pay the best? And why don't, and I'm having the shift, buy once, cry once kind of thing of like, even just building this. It's like, I could have gone cheap and had, subpar microphones and not, $5,000 cameras. And, we could have modded this together, but I'm like, no, I want to have something for the next 10 years that I could just like be excited about it. And it works every time. Yeah. I'm not like, I have to buy 4 new mics. Like, I swear, you buy the cheap one, then in 2 years, you're going to buy the expensive one, then you're going to buy the nicer one. I'm like, duh. And I'm just learning, if I want to go places, you start to play at a frequency, you start to attract those frequencies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's it's literally just a level up. Yeah. You just like, and then I can feel it and I notice it from afar. So I just want to, acknowledge you for that. It's cool to see, man. And we'll end it on this last question. Thanks for letting me come over and drop in with you.
Oh, dude, this has been, guys, I don't think you realize, me and Doug go like way, way back. We went to Dubai together. We worked together, bro.
I'll bring that up. So yeah, like Dubai was crazy. So I remember,
beautiful moment.
I remember it was like, no one was flying.
Yeah.
And I was meditating and I got like this calling. I'm like, you need to go to Dubai. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to Dubai like tomorrow. So I like got up and I booked a flight to Dubai for like 2 days later. And then I hit you up. We're like, hey, we're going to Dubai.
And I'm like, who are you going with? He's like, no one. I was like, when did you decide this? Yesterday?
Yeah.
I was like, what made you decide this? I don't know. I was meditating. I just booked the flight. And I was like, damn, that's dope.
Yeah.
And then he's like, why don't you come? I was like, well, let me meditate.
Yeah. And then we went to Dubai.
I was like, I'll see you there in a day. Yeah. And I'd never done anything like that. And I was just like, man, like, how cool is it that we just up and sent it?
We just went to the other side of the world.
I know. Just the day later, like, I was like, all right, I'm going
to Dubai. And that was a great trip too. Another thing too, I talk to people about it all the time. It was like that 2014 summer, man.
Yeah,
2014 summer. Like, I was number 1 all summer, like feeling good. Number 1 rep is mine. I've got this thing. Was up May, up June, July, and then August comes. I just hit a jitter, and Sam, you just skyrocketed.
It's a fun summer.
And just totally flipped. And I think it wasn't even close by the end of the summer. Like, you won that thing fair and square. But it was that one moment is like the only opportunity I was ever going to get to do it. And it was right there. And Sam just comes and just puts me to sleep at the end of the summer.
Good times.
But I'll end with this question. Actually, I stole this I saw it on an Instagram reel. I thought it was such a great question. It was someone asking Alex Ramosi. I can't remember the podcaster's name, but it was such a great question. And he said, if all of your content was scrubbed tomorrow, your door-to-door university, all of your books, your Instagram, right, your name from all the record books, and you could explain to someone your philosophies of life in one sentence, of who is Sam Taggart and what is the advice I would give to you if no one could look you up, what would you share in one sentence?
How do you practice being a human being instead of a human doing? How do you go and live life instead of worried about this life after death or worried about 6 months from now? I think that's the second book I wrote, Self-Experience. It's just like, and that's the book that no one's read, right? Like, sells very few copies, but it's like, how do you go live your experience of life to its fullest day by day instead of someone else's want, someone else's life, this like fictitious facade. And I think that like message is so powerful that many people don't put enough time and energy into.
Yeah. If I could sum up Sam Taggart, in one sentence for myself, I'd be like, Sam Taggart lives all out.
Yeah, I just live full out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's inspiring to see, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me. I had a lot of love for you. I'm excited what's in the future for you, and I'm going to keep cheering you on, brother.
You too, brother.
Love you, brother.
Thanks.